everybody. Thanks for joining another installment here. Today we've got Ashlyn Anstee and Cheyenne Curtis, two really good friends of mine who are storyboard artists, character designers. They do everything. Fantastic artists. And yeah, today we're talking about storyboarding and character design. So please fire away your questions, any questions you'd like. Look, we can get right to it. Cheyenne, please tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've worked on, what you do, what you're currently doing.
Cool, yeah. So I'm Cheyenne Curtis. I started in the industry working on Star vs. the Forces of Evil, season 1 as a character designer. Then kind of hopped around a little bit to at DreamWorks TV for a hot second, then went to Cartoon Network for a bit. Then went back to Disney to work on Big City Greens as a board artist and Amphibia as a board artist for both season 1s. And then I got a pilot over at Nickelodeon. So all of last year I was working on my pilot, and now I'm currently helping on Baby Shark with boards, and I'm going to go back to Disney for a little bit. Yeah, so that's kind of my life.
If anyone hasn't noticed, animation is a lot of kind of jumping around, even, you know, not just year to year, sometimes even month to month. So it's kind of an exciting industry. I like it personally. It kind of makes things a little more exciting.
Roller coaster.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ashlyn, how about you?
First of all, if you see a cat enter the frame, there is a cat here. There was just an ear, so I just want to explain that in case you guys think that your screens are haunted.
Yeah, you have multiple cats.
I have multiple cats, so multiple hauntings. So my name is Ashlyn. So I started out doing an internship at Jib Jab, which is now Storybots. Jib Jab moved into Storybots. And I was there for about 3 years doing kind of the gamut of like storyboarding, GIF creation, art direction, head animation, just sort of like random mishmash of stuff. After that, I moved on to Nickelodeon, where I also worked on a pilot, and I worked on Harvey Beaks. And then I kind of hopped around on a bunch of different projects, which you probably wouldn't know the names of. A TV movie called Lucky, a show called Wonder Park, which may or may not ever come out.
Is it still not out?
I
have no idea.
It may never come out.
Okay.
But I hopped around there for a little bit, helped on a bunch of different projects. And then now I'm at Netflix. I was on a show that has not been announced yet. And then another show, which also has not been announced.
A lot of stuff is NDA, so it's gonna...
So I am a career of icebergs, which is a lot, which is below the surface. But like Cheyenne, again, hopped around a lot, but mostly Nickelodeon and Netflix for me. And currently I'm also working on a couple of projects in development. And then, yeah, also I should mention me and Cheyenne both graduated from Sheridan College in Canada in the same year, a few years ago, let's say, maybe less than 10, more than 5 years ago.
Did you know each other at school?
Yeah, we knew each other at school. We weren't in the same class.
Ashlyn had really cool bright pink hair, and I was like, she's so cool. She's never going to talk to me or be my friend.
Yeah, we knew each other pretty well, actually. But yeah, we both moved out within a couple of years of each other, out to LA.
And that was like early 2010s?
Yeah, early 2010s.
Well, I graduated in 2000. We graduated in 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
You moved right to LA, and I took a little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ashlyn, you're also an author, you're a published author.
Yeah, so I also write and illustrate children's books, and I'm currently working on a graphic novel series for early readers, which is something I recommend if you guys are interested in storyboarding. Comics are actually another way that people are, not only are storyboard artists moving into comics after they do storyboarding, comic artists have always historically moved into storyboarding. Currently I'm working with a guy who I was like, oh, I love his webcomics. I didn't even know he does storyboarding. So this is kind of like always sort of cross-pollinated those two industries. So yeah, I do storyboarding and I do children's books.
Would you mind telling us the titles of the books so people can look them up?
Yeah. So yeah, my full name is Ashlyn Anstee, so you can Google my name. But I also, I have 3 picture books. Are We There Yeti? No No Gnome, and Hedgehog, which is about a hedgehog who doesn't want to share his hedge. Yeah. So those
They're
are my
all
3 picture
adorable.
books.
And Ashlyn also illustrated these books too.
Yes.
They're wherever books are sold, I think.
Yeah, they're published by Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House.
I'm gonna write the titles here for the chat.
Well, thank you.
Sorry, Are We There?
Yeti.
Yeah.
Love a good pun. Not saying that you gotta learn puns to work. No, you don't have to learn puns to work.
If you want to be a writer, you got to know your puns.
Yes, this is a basket case shirt. Someone in the chat asking. And sorry, the third book,
Hedgehog.
Yeah, hopefully that's right. I have all 3 books. They're wonderful. Okay, I think we're already getting into the question and answers here. I'm being texted all the questions, so hang tight. Okay, first question from Daniel. How could we ace a good storyboard portfolio? Any tips on storyboard creating a portfolio?
That's a good question. Ashlyn, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So one thing I always, for a little bit, I was like a judge in the Nickelodeon talent. What was the story?
The story like trainee program thing?
Trainee program. So one thing to think about is that the person looking at your portfolio doesn't have a lot of time. And they also are going to be looking at a lot of portfolios during the day. So you want to first of all, you want to make your portfolio as easy to access as possible. Eventually, what I ended up for my portfolio is just giving people a series of PDFs in a Dropbox, because honestly, that's a really quick and simple way to flip through files. Also, I sort of landed on maybe 100 to 150 storyboards per segment. You don't want to be giving people 1,000 storyboards to look at. They're not going to look at it. People don't have a lot of time to look at storyboards, and they know right off the bat within 50 panels if you can handle it or not. Label your files, what they are, what they're from. Is it a 6-11 board? Would you consider this board clean? Would you consider this board rough? Is it from a scripted show? Is it your original idea? Put this in the front panel too if you can. Just something to give people an idea, like right off the bat, what they're looking at, are all just ways that you can like organize your files so that when people are looking at them, they're not going to have to hunt down this information. I think seems like it doesn't have anything relating to storyboarding, but like is just going to, I think, help you make your portfolio really manageable for somebody to look at. Because your drawing skills are going to be what they're going to be, but like having somebody flip through like portfolio after portfolio, there are so many times where I would like click on somebody's website and be like, oh, I just can't click through these files and I can't see what I'm trying to look at. What do you think, Cheyenne? Yeah,
no, everything you're saying is super true. I would like to add, know if you're applying to a specific boarding show, like a show, like know if it's like comedy or action, because if it's like a comedy, script-driven show and your boards are all like super crazy action, like that could be cool, but it might not be exactly what they're looking for. So if you're a person who loves comedy and doesn't like to do action boards, then you should probably really kind of stick to that, like stick to what you love. Like it's kind of like just be authentic, because it's hard enough to board for a show that you love, let alone something that you're like, I don't know how to do the action stuff and I hate this and I have to draw cars and what am I doing? 'Cause that's hard. And then, and also, yeah, like TV boards are so different from feature boards. So, you know, if you're applying for like more of a feature position, kind of know the difference. That's a whole other topic.
It does help. Like, I think it's hard when you first start because you don't usually have a lot of like examples to draw from. Like, I know when I first started, it was like hard to like gather examples.
Sure.
Because like I would have to do boards in my spare time. Like I'd have to like come up with an idea and then board something. But eventually what I sort of like landed on is like having, I mean, this sounds crazy, but like having 10 different PDFs of different kinds of boards and knowing what I was going to submit for which job.
Sure.
Really does help.
Yeah, there's different shows for, you
Yeah.
know, depending on if it's a kid show or an adult show or whatever. You know, there's action shows, there's comedy shows, there's, you know, there's a lot of adult cartoons that are kind of, you know, obviously more adult. That might not have as much action. It might just be kind of, you know, characters really kind of talky. Kid shows will probably have a lot more action or not as much, you know, talking sequences. So yeah, like Ashlyn was saying, just have a good variety to your portfolio.
Yeah.
And can we, I think, I'm not sure if we brought this up in another stream. If we have, apologies, but can we really quick just talk about the difference between script-driven and a board-driven TV show?
Yeah, I've worked on both. Big City Greens was outline driven, so the writers give you like maybe like a 4-page to 6-page outline, and that's just kind of like explaining in, you know, big chunks that don't get too overly detailed with like dialogue or anything, just being like, okay, like in this episode, like act 1, you know, Cricket and Tilly are gonna blah blah blah, act 2, and then kind of give some details, and then that gets handed off to the board artist team, and you know, then we think of all the dialogue and you know, really get into the minutia of like the acting and the scenes. And script driven, like Amphibia was, we get the whole script. So all the dialogue, everything's in there. And you know, we have a little bit of room to play with like jokes and stuff or change a little bit of dialogue, but you know, we're not kind of tearing apart the whole story and moving scenes around. Like we're really sticking to the script. So, and then that, like my board partner and I would split the script in half.
I do think there's like value. I think sometimes like I consider myself to be more of like a writer storyboard artist. Like I love board driven shows because I am a stronger writer than like a drafts person. Like if you love to draw and you can like draw anything, like pick up a random script online and like try to board that and just use that in your portfolio. But if you want to write, come up with your own idea, board that, and use that as an example in your portfolio. Like I think that it's helpful to sort of think about like what you like to do and what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Great. And also to also mention for everybody, I guess it doesn't matter if you're working on an 11-minute or a 22-minute show, but usually you have at least 2 board artists on an episode, correct? And you share it?
Sometimes you're alone.
Okay.
I've been on shows where I've been alone boarding an 11.
Okay. Yeah. Then
solo.
Your kind of takes to like help you out.
Yeah.
Okay, so it depends on the show, but sometimes you'll have a board partner and you split it. You get the first half or whatever, the second half.
Yeah.
Cool. From Penny, how hard is it to get into storyboarding and character design? I like both. it's difficult.
How hard?
I think
That's, I don't know, I guess it's subjective. Like, some people kind of get a job when they're still in school, and that's like amazing. For me, I knew I wanted to be a character designer in LA specifically, and it took me over a year of testing and failing and flying out to LA to meet people and flying back. And at one point I was like, this is it, it's never going to happen for me, I might as well just like give up completely. And it always felt like I was outside looking into this world that was like impossible to break into. And I kept hearing over and over, like, once you're in, you're in. And I was like, but I can get in. But it's true. Like, once you kind of like, you land that first job, like, with Darren, I was so thankful because she was a first-time show creator. And so she took a lot of chances on, first-time character designers and first-time board artists. And like, I'm so grateful for that. So even though it was super scary, and, we were all kind of learning together. So I got really lucky in that sense. But I get, it's just kind of like throwing pasta at the wall over and over and hoping something sticks, just applying everywhere and really trying to get your name out there and posting art and really not giving up.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of testing and, getting denied, I guess.
So many rejections.
Rejected. But don't give up, everyone.
Yeah. I also would like to add, like, everyone's path is different, and like I think that there's sort of like there's so many different ways to like get in now than there ever have been. Like, I'm so impressed now with like social media. I mean, social media in its own way is like its own can of worms, but I mean, if you like to create art, like, you can create art and share it online and like get so many more like eyes on your art than you used to be able to. That, like, I mean, that's wild. Like, you can create your own animation, you can create your own comic and not have to rely on the same like sources that you used to have to, and same channels that you used to have to. And yeah, like, everyone does have their own journey. Like, I mean, I wasn't even in the traditional animation like industry for the first 3 years that I was out here. I was in Jib Jab in like Venice making e-cards, and I felt so separate from everyone before I like broke in. But yeah, as Cheyenne said, like, once you're like in, it's a little bit easier. It's that first job that really is the hardest. So don't lose hope.
From Alyssa, are there any jobs/internship positions that the three of us would recommend to start with in order to work up to character design or storyboarding? I hear prop design can be a good start. I'm unsure how else to work my way into those areas.
Storyboard revisionist is usually considered the like entry-level storyboarding position.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I would also recommend, as far as like, if you really are like coming in from the outside, like Nickelodeon has like artist program. There's like a lot of programs like that. Netflix just opened up their trainee program.
Yeah, today, right?
Yeah. So applying for those sorts of like tests are really great. Those jobs, and then taking as many tests as you can, I think, are a really good way to like kind of get your foot in the door. Yeah.
Sorry, Nico. Like, Women in Animation also does like mentorship circles and stuff, and I think there's a couple more of those that artists are, opening up their lives to, where we're like, I'll mentor 5 or 6 people, especially now that networking is like so hard with everything going on.
Yeah. And I say this every stream so far, I think, but yeah, Women in Animation. Thank you, Tina, for posting that. I say this every stream, but just being on Twitter and like just follow Netflix, because I noticed, just today, like, they opened up that training experience there. So follow Netflix. Nickelodeon's always posting, available positions. I find Twitter very helpful in that.
In that one regard.
Yeah. For nothing else. Any other thoughts on that? Let's see here.
I have heard, like, I know some people have gone the route of like being a PA and then going through that way. I do think that that's a good option as well. Or being going through like an intern program, even in an unrelated job, like for example, being an intern in like the like HR department, for example, and then going in through the system that way. At least as far as like getting to know people, it is just hard to like, you're still just going through the same tests as everyone else. So I do think that there's not necessarily any benefit to like being there other than like you're getting a salary and you're like meeting people, to being a PA and working there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, I think PA is another great way of getting there. Just sometimes I think people get stuck in like, when you go into becoming a PA, you get sort of locked into the producer track, and it's hard to like then make the jump to like character designer or storyboard artist, because you're sort of like locked into that track at that studio, for example.
And from experience and noticing while I was at Nickelodeon, I noticed a lot of our interns, started off, entered the studio as interns, and then ended up, when their internship was over, they ended up working for us.
Yeah.
I was a Nick intern, but I was in HR recruitment. I wasn't even on a show.
Yeah.
But still, it's a good chance to just have you physically in the studio, meeting the people who work there and having them get to know you.
Yeah,
it's a great way to meet people.
Yeah.
Which I think is like just part of it.
Yeah. From Augustine, hopefully I pronounced that right. Do we have to know how to use Storyboard Pro before going into the industry? I would say yes, because I think most studios. Maybe, what do you think? As far as I know,
didn't really, to be honest.
Okay.
When I had my first job, Cheyenne, did you know Storyboard Pro?
No, I learned it in like a day, because I was like,
okay.
Shit.
That's the thing. Like Storyboard Pro, to be honest, like does not take that much to learn. This is maybe unpopular opinion. What just get flamed in the chat. Thumbs down in the chat. So Storyboard Pro, yeah, I like got the job at Harvey Beaks. I did my boards in Photoshop for my test.
Yeah.
Because I had been boarding in Flash at Jib Jab, which is like boarding with spatula hands. Cheyenne's currently boarding in Flash, so Adobe just like bans me on Twitter. So Storyboard Pro, I think like you can learn in a day as long as you know how to board. Like it just takes somebody like a day to explain like the numbering system to you.
Yeah, I mean, like I really like Storyboard Pro, but if you don't have them, like if you're applying for all these jobs and you don't have the means to like access Storyboard Pro, because it can be like a little pricey, like do your boards in Photoshop, doing whatever you feel most comfortable, and then once you get the job, be like, I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna watch videos. I'm just gonna learn it. But don't hold yourself back, from applying to those jobs if you're like, I don't have the program.
It's really like, it's not that tough to learn, I don't think.
Is it true that most studios and most shows have Storyboard Pro available once you start?
Yeah, they provide you with all that.
Yeah. And it's also, if you do want to learn it, they offer a month membership for like $50. I mean, if you're like, I really need to learn it, download it for a month, watch a couple videos, you'll be a pro in.
I just saw in the chat, there's a 21-day free trial.
Oh, take that free trial.
Yeah. Just play around with it.
From Parker, for character design, what does it take to entertain your audience? How would you express character expressions within their personality?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I wonder if that's geared towards like your own personal work or the character design position, because like once you get the character design job, you're mostly like you're doing rotations and you're doing expression sheets, and a lot of times you'll take what the board artist is doing and use their expressions and kind of combine that with the expression sheet, just because sometimes board artists just do like the funniest, craziest stuff. So where's it going with that? And then yeah, also as a character designer, you're doing what's it called? Like why am I blanking? Like when you have like the board and you draw the special posing.
Mm.
This is where I know what I'm doing. So yeah, you do special poses, and it was really cool because doing all of that, like especially drawing over boards and kind of cleaning them up and putting them on model, like really helped train me in keeping things on model, but also staying true to like the board artists and what they were doing. And like board artists just have so much energy when they draw, and when you do character design, you don't want to lose that energy at all. Like you don't want to make it this like stiff kind of dead thing. So I think like a good character design is a lot about energy. Like even if you don't have a storyboard to go off of, it's like if you look at it, you're like, oh, is this character like a sweet character? Are they like what are they doing? What are their hands doing? What are their like it's all about the details, like the little things that make a character, not so much like they just have purple hair and that's it, that's their whole personality. It's like what else, like why do they wear the shoes they wear? It's like character design is asking a lot of questions of like why, like why are they doing what they're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, oh my god, did I freeze?
No, we're all just like
thinking my whole like talk. I hope I answered your question. I'm sorry if it didn't.
I think Nico may have froze.
Okay, it's not us.
I was gonna say I have never done character design professionally, but I find it interesting, or very like I am so impressed at the ability of character designers to preserve characters in cleanup, because that to me is like such a skill. Like I, as a board artist who draws like so rough, still feel like I struggle in like cleanup to keep that like life, I guess.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. Well, Nico is gone.
Yeah, I'm
so
sorry
maybe...
to say his internet just went out.
Oh
so,
no.
Well, that's okay.
So
maybe we can just...
I'm gonna have Matt ask you the questions, or I can ask you questions. Because of the high amount of people applying to character design positions and the lack of available positions, is there anything that you would recommend to really stand out to recruiters besides traditional character sheets?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's true. Like, it feels like for every show, there's only maybe like, there's like the art director, and then there's like 2 or 3 character designers, and then sometimes like less. So it's a position that it's not like boarding where you have like a huge amount of board artists that are needed. But I guess like in your portfolio, I think having like a voice, like a mixture of being like, look, here's my rotations here. I know all the fundamentals. I know the basics. I know how to do what you're going to be asking me to do. But also, here's a little piece of me. Here's my personality. Here's what I love. Here's like, some like you could go crazy experimental, and some of you, if like at the end of your portfolio, you're like, and here's just me, it's like putting yourself into your portfolio. And I don't know, it's like, it's not even being like, you have to draw every single style in the world. Like, it's not that. It's just kind of being like who are you? Like you're going to be hired onto a team for your skills, but also because you have like a voice. Like every artist has a voice. So what are you going to bring to the table? And, like it could be doing, like putting in your portfolio, like, oh, this is, some character designs from something from like my past, or like, where I'm from, or my culture. Like everyone's so unique and everyone has a story. So kind of like putting that into your portfolio. What's your story?
I think that's so yeah, I 100%
Just like crying.
yeah, like sobbing. No, I think that's really true. Like putting your own voice in it is really like what makes you you. Like I think it's sort of like yeah, you want to show that you can like be marketable and like be like all of that, but like I think what people want now is like, can you also like what can you bring that's just for you? And can you be like a nice, kind person also? I think that's sort of like a thing that I feel like people look for as part of the team. I know that's hard to show in a portfolio, but that's like also why people when people say like, oh, it's you know, who you know, or like recommendations from the industry, it's really because like people want to work with nice people or people that are kind and people that they know are recommended. So if you can like have that going for you in that in the industry, like I think that's beneficial as well.
Nico's back. Hi, Nico.
Nico's
Sorry,
back.
my internet just completely died for 5 minutes.
I hate that.
What's the last? Did you get? There's so many questions. Hang on. Did you get Ninette's question?
Which one was that, about character design?
That's the one I just texted you. Or the last question I asked was Parker, but
yeah, we answered that, and then we answered one about character design and like how to stand out in your portfolio.
Got it. Okay, sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, the one from Veronica was the one that I just asked while you were out.
Oh, great. Okay.
So I think that's where.
I think Ninette didn't get asked.
Okay.
Okay, you texted it to me. Here, I saw.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Nico. I didn't know where you left off.
No, it's okay.
Okay, cool.
Ninette asks, what are the available positions that are considered entry level into doing character design? Is there an assistant character designer that most studios have, or only a few? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a little tricky, because like I know like you have like your art director, you know, and that's kind of under your showrunner is your art director, and who you what's it called, report to, and also your showrunner. But yeah, I guess like some places must have like senior character designer, and then kind of under I haven't personally experienced being like an assistant character designer, but I don't know, there's so many different productions that work in so many different ways, like that could totally be a thing.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never I'm not entirely sure if there's an entry level position for character designing. I think it might just be, there might be assistants, but
yeah, I mean, I think honestly with character design, a lot of productions will freelance character designers for a while until they feel like, oh, they really get this, and then hire them full time. So maybe freelance would be that, like, you know, entry level.
Yeah. And then Tina asked Veronica's question. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. From Augustine, what do you recommend not having in a storyboard portfolio? Ditto for character design.
Really long boards.
Yeah. Like Ashlyn said at the very beginning, like just nothing that takes an hour to read.
Let's see, for character design, like I think there's a difference between submitting a portfolio for a specific job and then having like your website, because like with a lot of websites, you know, you'll have like, oh, this is like my sketchbook stuff, oh, this is like some like experimental painting that I did, like that's totally cool to have there. But I think like if you are submitting a character design portfolio, it's not a good idea to put like backgrounds in there unless you're like, oh, I did a character and also put it in the background, like, you know, or don't do these like colored full painting like stuff. It's just, they're not looking for that. They're looking for, you know, like your fundamentals and your rotations and all that. And same for storyboarding, you know, like if you're sending it to like a show that's a comedy show and you're putting in these like crazy, like I did this in gouache, you know, backgrounds, it's like, okay, cool, put that on your website, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of like a weird, I feel like when I was in school, we had this like era of like, yeah, you put in like life drawing and like this and this, and like really like for jobs, they just want to see like what you can do for the job. Like,
yeah, like I've seen I've seen character design portfolios with like gesture drawings in the back, and like that's cool too. I like, depends on the showrunner. Maybe some showrunners are like, yes, I need to see these like super cool gesture drawings, but just have like, just know what you're applying for.
Mhm.
yeah.
Great. I always hope that I'm pronouncing your name right. Auteur. When you're working on a project, how can you integrate your own style into the character designs? Interesting.
That's a really cool question.
Some designers get picked because of their style.
That's true.
And the person running the show, I'm speaking for myself here, but like I make, my project Ollie and Scoops, I wanted it to look like my friend Natasha's designs because I just thought she had a really unique, cool style. I'm like, that's the style I want for the whole show. So and I was on Pig Banana Cricket at Nickelodeon, and they specifically wanted Dave Cooper's style to be the style of the show. So he, was like the lead designer for everything.
Like when I was on, like the reason Darren hired me for Star was because we drew so similarly, and we just, we valued like the same things. So when I was in there, like it's interesting because like you want to try and draw in the style of the show and get that like super accurate, but then like I think like sort of the first season, like when you first start, like everything has to be like, oh my God, I'm a model, and like we're making the show. And then kind of by the end of the first season, you're starting to like push things a little bit, and like change proportions just a little bit, push expressions. And again, this all depends on the show. Yeah. But specifically the ones I worked on, like from season 1 to 2, you could tell like, oh yeah, like we went crazy towards the end of it. So it's
that's
like,
cool when you can tell a season 1 episode from a season 2 just from looking at it.
Yeah, you can definitely even like in Steven Universe and stuff. You're like, oh, I know exactly what artist drew that. But I think it's like if you love like super over the top, crazy Looney Tunes-esque expressions, but you're on a show that doesn't call for that, it's like, like maybe try and push things in that direction. But I think there's always a way to just like ever so slightly kind of add your little flair. And see if it's gelling with the showrunner.
Yeah. Great. From Sylvester, question: any advice to people? Well, this is probably mainly for Ashlyn. Any advice for someone who? I got a text and the question got lost. Hang on. I have to find it. I have a huge list of questions here. Okay, any advice to people who want to publish their first children's book? Ashlyn?
Well, so I started doing books when I was still working in animation, which I wholeheartedly recommend, which is make sure that you're got your day job / money situation squared away, because making books takes like a lot of time. So children's book publishing specifically works on sort of like a different model than animation. It works on like an agent system for the most part. There is like the self-publishing industry, and that's like kind of a whole other can of worms. You can kickstart your book, you can self-publish, but the way that I went, which is sort of the method that I think works for most people, because you don't have to market yourself, is you query or apply for an agent with your portfolio, similar to how you would apply for a job, with a manuscript, and then you take that manuscript, they take that manuscript, they send it out to publishers, and then the publishers would then take that book and they would publish it for you, market it for you, send it out. So if you're interested in books, one website I highly recommend for everyone is scbwi.org. It's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. They're a national organization that a great resource for children's books writing, illustrators. They have a directory of agents. They have a directory of publishers of where you can submit your work. Just an overall great resource for people who are interested in publishing.
Would you mind typing that in the chat?
Yeah, scbwi.org.
Thank you.
Oh, and Tina did it too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're just really great. So if you're interested, like one thing I did was I went to the library and I took out like 10 picture books and I read them aloud. I don't have any children, and I read them aloud to my cats. My fur babies, just to get a sense of what it was actually like to read aloud a book, because it's a completely different medium than animation. I know I read books as a child, but reading them aloud and like experiencing what it's like to flip through a book is a completely different experience than like sitting and reading it alone. You really have to like immerse yourself in like in the material, in the medium, in the physical object that a book is. So I would like buy books. 1 second. Yeah, I would buy books. I would, can you hear me? I think I checked.
Yes.
AirPods ran out of battery. And I would just like immerse yourself in what stories are like now, because they've changed a lot since you were a kid too. And just, yeah, enjoy it. Oh yeah, and somebody in the chat, I don't know if I'm supposed to read the chat, mentioned Art Center at Night with Marla Frazee. Such a good course. Marla Frazee is a genius. She wrote Boss Baby, the actual picture book, which is a really good picture book that they then turned into a movie, which you could do. Maybe you write a picture book that they turn into a movie. But she's a genius. She's written and illustrated a bazillion books. Yeah, it's awesome. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No, it's okay. I want to also echo what you said because I have attended Ashlyn's book release parties at bookstores, and when you're reading your book in front of the audience of kids, and they're all just like, and just seeing their faces, like how immersed they are in the story. Yeah, I'm just echoing what you said pretty much, but it's really great.
Thing with animation, like I also think that we should be watching cartoons with children sometimes, because it's a fully different experience to watch something with its intended audience. You know, like we make cartoons for children.
Yeah.
But often we don't actually watch it with its intended audience.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that wild? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, like one of the scariest experiences of my life was when they were testing my pilot with a lot of children, and it's like, sometimes they say like the sweetest things in the whole world and your heart melts, and other times they're like, this is stupid and I hate it, and you're
this
like,
is boring.
you die. And
they're very blunt. That's what they
yeah,
that's what they need.
Pick up on, like you would never expect.
This following question from Jamie is very much linked to what you were just saying, Ashlyn. If you want to add to it, they were asking, how do you begin illustrating children's books? I think you pretty much answered that. Yeah.
Start. I mean, the only thing I would say is picture book is 32 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either 32 or 40. You can't make it any number other than 32 or 40.
Wow.
So it's got to be in multiples of 8 pages. So do some thumbnails, break out some paints, have a good time.
Cool.
That's my motto.
Here's a character design question for both of you from Lily. So on the topic of character design, which I'm guessing is similar, when people are looking through your portfolio quickly and looking at so many things, how can you make your portfolio stand out more? What can you do to make it pop more?
I feel like I kind of answered that before.
Yeah, I think we had a similar question also.
I don't know if should I like reiterate or?
We could just, let's do like a quick reiteration.
Yeah, I think just, you know, when you open the portfolio, just have your rotations, have your basics, have fundamentals down, because that's, you know, what we're looking for is like, okay, can this person properly rotate? Can they do expression sheets? Can they do all this stuff? And then adding, you know, maybe towards the back of it, just your own flair, your own story. Just because, like I mentioned before, everyone's so unique and has so many things to say about their lives. It's like, how do you, like, putting that in to your portfolio, like, you know, your culture, your background, or like a crazy vacation you took, and like doing some designs based off that. Like, a lot of times I see portfolios that are like, it's like a retelling of, you know, like Little Red Riding Hood, and like that's super cool, and I'm sure it looks like fucking awesome, but also it's like, you know, we've seen that a lot too, and it's hard not to, like, in your mind compare, like, okay, Little Red Riding Hood, and like compare it to other stuff. So it's like, is there a way to like do your own designs that is something so uniquely you and a fresh take in your story, or something that you're just so passionate about?
And it's, I think it's gonna also depend on who is looking at your portfolio. Some producer or showrunner who looks at your designs and they're not exactly thrilled might thrill someone else, you know.
Yeah, it's all subjective.
It depends on, it's all subjective. Like, yeah,
Really.
your designs might be the bee's knees for some people, and then not so much for others. So,
and just like add one tiny thing to that is like, you know, you don't have to do like a million styles in your portfolio. You don't have to do like every style in the universe, but some variation is nice, you know, to be like, okay, here's my more cartoony stuff, and then also here's some, you know, more realistic proportions, and it's just nice to see.
From Allison, how are feature boards different from TV boards?
Oh, Ashlyn, you should start with this one.
Yeah, actually, this is a great question, because I just added in the last year or so a feature board section to my portfolio. Because when I was in college, I had a guy tell me that once you did TV, you could never do feature.
Never. That's it.
No one will ever want you in feature. Like, you're gonna be dirty. Like, no one's gonna want to talk to you. And then I got approached by a feature studio, and they were like, you know, we love your work. We think that you would really, if you tried to do feature boards, you would really, maybe you would really like it. But and this like goes back to like, you know, it's kind of like who you know, or like if somebody's willing to give you a chance. But this guy I'd worked with before was like, hey, we'll sit down, like I'll talk you through it a little bit, and we'll work on you doing some feature boards, which was so nice of him, because I have been working in TV for like 1,000 years. So my boards are like very TV. So feature boards are more cinematic, which means your angles are going to be more dynamic. You know, you can tilt them more, you can go from higher up, lower, or down, more 3D shots, you know, not as like straight on, or, you know, you're going to draw the characters from like, basically imagine the camera just like moving around more in the shot as well. Like in TV, you don't want to draw the camera moving around because often the show is in 2D. So you don't want to draw a moving camera. In feature, move that camera around, like going out of style. Not necessarily, but like for the shot. Also, in addition, feature doesn't use Storyboard Pro. You know how we just talked about like, oh, do you need to learn Storyboard Pro? In feature, they hate Storyboard Pro. Storyboard Pro hate it. They're like, no, we don't want, you have to use Photoshop for your boards. Yeah. They want toned boards. They want the boards to look moody. They want them to be lit and like beautifully rendered and so I did a sequence of boards that were all like as dynamically rendered as I could possibly try to make them. And my friend was like, you know, okay, you're trying your best. And, you know, I think it was getting there, but the fact is like, it is like a very specific skill set. Like, it's very like gestural. And in fact, like, this is sort of like a weird thing to say, but some people say that like feature boards are kind of like, the schedules are like less intense because you're given like, I don't know.
4 years to make a movie.
Yeah, I'm like making it up, but like in TV, it's like you do 5 weeks for like 1,000 boards, and then in feature, they're like, you have 8 months to do like 2 boards.
Yeah.
But they're like beautiful.
Illustrations.
Like beautiful illustrations. But yeah, I think for feature, like it is like more like beat boards almost, like more like rendered and subtle. And if you look online, like what I would do is, if you're interested in feature boards, like there are examples of like, I know Kung Fu Panda boards are online, and you can see that they are just a lot more just like rendered and gestural. Like Glenn Keane comes to mind, even though he did animation. Like they're all like that. Like
But not always on model, right? Like some
not
of them,
always on model at all. Like
it's a bit more important in TV to be on model.
yeah, TV is like always on model, and like
because most of the time in feature they animate the movie in house, like at Walt Disney Feature or DreamWorks. So they don't necessarily, the animators are right down the hall, so they don't necessarily need to.
Yeah, and like on model, I don't know if that's like, people know that term. It just means like sticking, like your storyboards have to look like the model sheets that designers did.
And the features a lot more about like subtle acting too. Like, can you get like the subtle motions that make the character like the character? Yeah, I will say you should never put a feature board in your TV portfolio, and you should never put a TV board in your feature portfolio. Like the crossover is like, it's really weird. They're like very like oil and water, like with each other. Like I recently got a message from a friend that was like, we're making a movie and like we had to bring in people from TV. And I was disgusting. Like it's so funny. And I hope someday we can all get along.
Yeah. I just saw this in the chat, and just because it's related to what we're talking about, why don't TV studios animate in-house? I think mostly because of the schedule. I think just TV schedules are a lot shorter.
It's expensive to animate in the States.
And it's more expensive.
Yeah, and stuff.
It's much, that's why they usually send it to Canada or
Korea.
Other studios. There are a few, Titmouse has animated a few things in-house, but it's just not, they save money. It's sucky.
Yeah, it would be nice, but.
Yeah, it would be really nice.
Okay, from Laura, what is prop design like?
I don't know, I've never done prop design. I wish I could tell you more about that.
We had Ruth on as our guest last time, and she's a prop designer, so she would definitely be the person to ask. I think she talked about it a lot last time too, so maybe whenever the episode comes up, definitely grab it. But
Sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, sorry. From Melissa, is there a stigma for boarding on things that already exist / have been produced, or is that a regular practice? I think if you're just starting out and you're getting, you have to put something in your portfolio, I think it's fine to board things that already exist.
What do you mean by that? Like, oh, I'm going to board an episode of, like, I don't know, Steven Universe made up? Or?
Maybe like take like a Steven Universe script or like a SpongeBob script and board to it just to get practice in. I think that's what they mean.
I mean, I think as long as you say that this isn't like, from an episode or for anything, yeah, I think for practice it's okay.
I think that would be fine as long as it's not like from the production. I think it goes hand in hand a little with using tests in your portfolio, which I think can be a little. How do you feel about using tests in your portfolio, Cheyenne?
Yeah.
Just throw you on the spot there.
I don't know. It's hard to say because, like, when I was first trying out, like, I had a lot of tests, and I was kind of like showing that to like prove, like, look, here's my Adventure Time test. Here's that. But they're also like tests that not failed, but like, you know, weren't chosen also. So that's tricky. I don't know. I think it also depends on the showrunner. I think having, you know, your own material is smart. And then if it's a rotation, I think that's fine because it's like, look, I could rotate. You know, I could always carry it. But I think if it's like, maybe storyboarding is a little different.
Yeah, I had my Harvey Beaks test in my portfolio for a long time, but that was because the Harvey Beaks test was with original characters, not with Harvey Beaks characters.
Oh, okay.
Big City was like that too. It was like make up your own characters, make up your own story, which is like it's a really cool test to do because then you're like, okay, like I get to use this now.
Way back when the Adventure Time test was like that too. It was like create characters that look like Penn Ward, or, you know, design them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Another question here. What are some of the exercises that both of you do as writers and board artists that help you improve and level up?
Exercises, eh?
Regular active exercises.
I don't know. That's for me. Like, I know there's like a part of my brain that wants to like watch movies and like make little thumbnails and do all that like homework, and then I don't do that because I'm like lazy and I'm like, I'm tired of drawing all day. I just want to sleep. But I read, like, for me, I like reading a lot. So kind of instead of, because again, like, you know, when you're drawing all day, you're just so exhausted by the end of the day or by the weekend, and you want to do other things. But for me, like reading helps me kind of, you know, not feel like I'm, you know, drawing again and kind of using up all the energy, but still absorbing new things and like, and just watching movies and kind of studying them and talking about them.
That's interesting. That's great. To level up, you just take breaks.
Yeah.
Don't force yourself to draw too much and work too hard.
And, you know, some people love it. Some people love doing film studies and doing all that stuff. And I think, you know, way back when I was like, I had all the energy of like 1,000 suns, I would do that. But now I'm pretty precious with my, you know, non-work time. But, you know, it's, everyone has their own way of doing things. You do, Ashlyn.
Well, I was gonna say I'm the same in some sense. Like, I think it is hard, like when you work, once you start storyboarding for work, your bandwidth to do more storyboarding outside of work becomes pretty low. Like, that's why I do kids books, because it's not more storyboarding. Like, I find it's really hard to motivate myself to do more storyboarding. One thing that both me and Cheyenne do is like we pitch, like we develop our own stories. And that's something that I recommend to everyone. Like, if you like to do character design and you like to do storyboarding, you like telling stories, and you don't have to like end up making them into full-blown projects for yourself. Like, sometimes it's just like, if you're drawing a character, like, well, what is this character's story? What would they do in a show? And that's going to make a more interesting drawing if you come up with the story behind this drawing instead of just a cute character doing a cute pose, which is, I think, something that, like, the more you do that, the more you practice the skill of like world building and like story creation, the more interesting your characters are going to become.
I think that's one thing that I like doing, is like just practicing gesture drawing from like websites, and that just helps me just think of better poses. But I think that's the only real drawing study that I do. It's like costume drawing and stuff.
Here's an interesting question. So if so on board-driven shows, is it difficult? Sorry, is it difficult for writers to get a job on board-driven shows if the storyboard artists are the ones boarding and writing?
No, no, like the writers are super important in board-driven shows
Mhm.
because they write the outlines and they're in these writer rooms and they're really breaking the characters and figuring all that stuff out. And then they also on Big City, the writers would also be in like our pitches and would help with like jokes and help with the storytelling and the structure if we decided to like break everything, which sometimes boarders tend to do. Then we're like, uh-oh. So yeah, no, like I mean, I'm not a writer. I don't have that, I can't speak for them or that experience of like what's like board driven versus script driven for them. But I would say like the writers, had a huge hand in board driven shows.
Yeah, I don't think there's a difference between getting the writing job on a board-driven show versus a script-driven show. Because I think that they're the same. Like, it's just one breaks the story. They both break the story, like break the story down into its core components. It's just one ends up taking it fully to script and like writing it all out, and then the other just sort of like takes its outline and then leaves a little earlier. Usually that's what happens in the part of the storyboard process.
And having worked on board-driven shows, a lot of the times in the animatic stage, parts might get rewritten or added to from the board.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're both fun. I like both.
Yeah, I like both too.
I like
They're both,
swapping between them, keep yourself on your toes.
They're both different animals. I like them. From Melissa, I want to work on my writing, but I'm worried about the little details I want to get across visually and temporally. Is a screenplay or comic or combo better for practicing?
I'll let Ashlyn answer that one because she's more of a writer.
Boy. Well, writing, I always like to joke that no one wants to write. No one actually wants to write. Everybody just like, that's something you just have to do. Like it just is something that is sort of like forced upon you by your soul, which is sort of dark, but yeah, let me think for a second. I think with writing, I mean, I think a screenplay is a little bit less work, to be honest. A comic is a lot of work. It's just a lot of like pencil mileage, like to draw each panel. Whereas like a screenplay is just like, to do a comic, you're essentially doing a screenplay and then drawing the actual comic. I think if you're worried about trying to focus on the details, one thing that the advice that I give to like children, because children have very short attention spans, and I also have the attention span of a child, is to break a comic down in a bullet point instead of a screenplay. Have each panel be a bullet point and then a dialogue bullet point afterwards. If you make it a less formal process for yourself, then you're not tightening your brain up so much. Because I think that's where people get kind of like nervous with comics, is they start thinking like, oh, it needs to feel like this formal process of like, oh, I write a screenplay and then I transfer it to comic form. Whereas if you're the one making the comic, then maybe you write bullet points out and then do thumbnails and then squish them together. And that will help you think less of the details as you're going along. That's sort of like strange advice. The other thing that I would recommend, if you're interested in comics and you're interested in writing, read Linda Berry's work. I'll write her name in the chat. Linda Berry is like the best person of all time to like free your mind from like feeling trapped by your own like ego and like anxiety about creating work. It's just like a great way to like free yourself from that like shackle of like the tightness of worrying about like the details of it. If that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah. We're over the halfway mark. Crazy. We might do we have so many questions. So we might do like a lightning round.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Pretty soon. Yeah. Okay. From Eric. I create my own webcomic. Would it be appropriate to put pages from it in a storyboard portfolio, or should I keep that out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're applying for like a comedy board, you know, and if you have a comedy comic, you know, kind of putting it at the back, I think it's cool. Or even if it's like an action thing, yeah, I think it's fine.
Cool. Kind of a similar question from Sylvester. I'm planning to do webcomics. Any advice or suggestion that I should be aware of? Have either of you ever done webcomics?
No.
No.
I wish. It sounds
I've like
fun.
dabbled in it, but nothing too serious.
My advice from friends who have done it: build a big backlog before you start posting them.
Yeah.
So that when
just,
you have a regular schedule, you can like take breaks if you need to.
yeah, they already have most of the entire story kind of written out and fleshed out, either in their head or, you know, in a notebook or something. And they just make a whole bunch of comics before they post any of them.
Yeah.
From Will, how do you feel about having tests in your portfolio? Did we answer that?
Yeah, we kind of
Okay.
skimmed on that.
Was there like a super quick answer for him?
Don't do it unless you're like really proud of it. Unless you're like, this is the best test I've ever done.
Okay.
That's fair.
And yeah.
Any tips on how to prepare yourself for a storyboard test?
I think like, you know, read it over, kind of process it, like absorb it, you know, look at all the reference material, do some practice drawings, like loosen up a little bit, draw, if they provide you with like a character sheet, you know, practice like your shorthand, like figure that out what your shorthand's going to be. Just like the quickest way to, you know, draw the characters. And you know, don't go, I mean, I know there's like a whole thing about like abusive testing in the union, like some tests like they make you do like an insane amount of work with like no time at all. And if they do that, you should report that test to the union because they shouldn't be doing that. But, you know, like give it your all, give it your best, but don't kill yourself over it. Don't stay up and never get any sleep. And, you know, because that's just not realistic. Like it's not how we work in the industry. We shouldn't be doing that. And yeah, I mean, like I know they were like, have fun with it. And sometimes they're not fun, but like, you can find any joy. I don't know, Ashley, do you have anything?
Yeah, don't do them all on the last day. Yeah, I definitely agree with the like don't overdo it. Like, you know how they say like a lot of them are like do it in 8 hours. Like I still talk to people where they're like, I did it for 4 straight days, and I'm like, that's not like, I know you think that you're like doing what you should by like overdoing it or like really like showing them how good you are, but like in the end it's not going to be good because like you're just showing them what, that's not like actually showing them what you can do in 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's like it's like actually a false thing that you're showing.
Well,
it's my face that I make when I
music break. That's like theme music.
Here's a quick question. Is there a difference in a portfolio for a storyboard or a storyboard revisionist?
Well, I think with revisions, like you're always going to want to eventually become a board artist. So it's like if you kind of treat it like I'm a board artist, you know, and get into that mindset. But you know, yeah, like if like have some rough stuff, have some clean stuff, kind of treat it like a full board position.
From Jennifer, are there certain hashtags people in the industry follow when finding art on social media?
Oh yeah, I feel like every
I'll be right
day,
back.
I feel like every day there's like a new hashtag that's like,
Yeah.
this day, portfolio. I'm like, wait, didn't we just do that hashtag? Like, I thought they're supposed to be once a year. Yeah, if you,
One I follow.
yeah, like I think for like, there's like the portfolio day one, which is like, I think the biggest one I've seen, which is really cool because, you know, you get to see the most beautiful artwork in the whole world. And follow those people, but I don't know, I think people make like on Twitter they make like lists, don't they, of like artists and this and that, and that could be good to follow. Yeah, if you're looking for work, you know, using the hashtags that are trending in the artist world. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like if you follow a few of the like people with a fair number of followers, you'll eventually see like the one hashtag of the day or week. Like, what was the one this week? Nobody artist tag. That was like a good.
I didn't do that.
yeah.
I don't know. That one felt. I felt bad for like.
That was a reactionary one.
That made me feel a little sad.
That was a strange one.
Get it.
So, but yeah, like I think there's not really one, but maybe portfolio day is a good one.
Mm-hmm. And that's like a couple times a year, right? I feel like I see it a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Pretty often.
It's every day.
Well, Black one is amazing. Yeah, there's some really cool ones.
What shows do you know are board driven or script driven?
Like just in general?
I think most of the Walt Disney TV animation are board driven.
No, I mean Amphibia script. I feel like a
Oh,
lot
Amphibia.
of videos, yeah, Amphibia scripted. I feel like Cartoon Network tends to not do scripted. They tend to do board driven, but now like Nickelodeon and Disney, I feel like are skewing more towards script driven shows. I'm not sure about like Netflix or other places.
Netflix Kid Cosmic is script driven.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit more the norm now to do script driven.
Yeah, I think like 4 years ago it was like Hot was all board driven, and now we're like swinging back to script.
Mm-hmm.
It like is a pendulum.
Yeah. Every
5 years it.
Yeah, every 5 years the industry has
It
little
changes.
differences and changes.
If you like board driven, just wait 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. From Carmen, what made you both decide that storyboarding was your path?
Ooh, well, for me, I was like, character design is for me. That's all I'm doing. Character design. And then when I did it, I really loved it. But I kind of realized like the highest, not the highest you go, but like when you want to level up as a character designer and move up, you eventually will go to like art directing and more on that side of it. And I was like, oh damn, like I don't want to do art direction. Like I don't want to do any of that. But I also didn't want to like only stay in character design for my whole career. So I was super intimidated by boards. Because also in school, I was always just told like you have to be like a genius to be a board. And they're like, not you. You're not a genius. You're not going to do it. So I always just kind of had the stigma of like I'm never good enough to do boards. I'm not going to do them. But when I was actually like working in productions and seeing how boards were done and the pipeline and how board artists work and all the different styles, I was like, oh, I could do that. I could definitely do that. And I found myself being really drawn to storyboarding, like the way that they draw really like fast and loose. So that's kind of what helped me was just like doing it, you know, like you might do characters, you might do props, might do something else and be like, you know, I think I'm really gravitating towards something else there, and that's totally fine, you know?
Yeah. I started as like very much a generalist. When I graduated, I also really wanted to always do storyboarding, but kind of like Cheyenne, I feel like storyboarding is always like, you'll never be a storyboarder.
You think you got
and in Canada, like the only jobs sort of that there were sort of like animation. Like that was kind of what I was sort of like expecting to sort of do out of school, was to go into animation. So yeah, I actually really liked doing generalist stuff, like doing a little bit of everything. Yeah, I just really like being able to tell a story, and that was always really appealing to me. There's definitely things that I don't love about the job, like it's really grindy, I think. It sort of like grinds you down, I think, a lot more than other jobs. It has like a very much like an ebb and flow of like crunch time. Like I feel like, I mean, I feel like a lot of the other jobs in the industry, like you have, you know, like you do your backgrounds for the week, you do your this for the week, whereas storyboarding, it's like pitch to pitch to pitch, and it just feels very like grindy. But it's really fulfilling, you know, I think in that way. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I got into it. Yeah. Did I answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the answer.
Yeah. It's good, but stressful.
From Christian, what specific tasks should we be proficient with when using Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, other common software, such as turning on and off layers, coloring an image, etc.? What specific tasks should we be proficient with when using these programs?
Well, I guess for like character design, I know some places use like Photoshop to do the character designs, and I think just being really efficient with your naming and your layers. Like you don't want to hand over a file of Photoshop that has like 8,000 layers that aren't named. Like, you know, like having like your line work on one, and then like your colors. And for storyboarding, I think it means kind of the same. It's like just be confident and efficient and simple.
Yeah.
You know?
Sorry, as an editor, for board artists to make sure that their boards are like numbered correctly, that's a big one.
You don't like a million different letters and numbers for every panel?
Panel 1.AAAAA underscore underscore 1111. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to like say what skills you might need to be proficient in because each production is pretty different, I think. But yeah, like naming conventions is always a good skill to have.
Yes.
It's not the most exciting answer, but it's true. From Rosum, are any other painting software appropriate for the industry, or do we have to only use Photoshop? I've seen Storyboard Pro and Photoshop being the primary programs.
At least for like industry, like for, yeah. But I think, I mean, as long as you know how to like paint digitally, right? Like, I think you're probably fine, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think like, on Star, didn't they use like, didn't character designers have to switch over from Photoshop to like a Toon Boom, like a Harmony?
Possibly, yeah.
Might have had to do that, but I don't know.
Makes sense because they were animating in Harmony.
Yeah. Your production will always let you know what programs that they prefer and use. Like you're never going to start and they're never going to be like,
surprise. Yeah, they'll let you know.
Yeah.
And from Carmen, do you use a Cintiq for character design?
Yeah.
Cintiq's pretty much for everything that's drawn.
Yeah. So I don't use a Cintiq. I use my iPad. Hooks up to my laptop, y'all. So home can.
Yeah, I use my iPad. That's great. Usually the studio will provide you with a Cintiq, so you don't have to worry about buying one.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about like what you're using at home. I mean, me and Cheyenne, we're beautiful young ladies, but we both learned on like Wacom tablets back in the day.
Yeah.
We didn't have Cintiqs in our computer labs at Sheridan until our final year. They had 5 Cintiqs and they had to fight over them.
Oh.
So like, you know, I think that there's an element of like, you know, you kind of learn on what you have. Like, I think it's okay to experiment.
Yeah.
And like letting us is. I learned on like a bamboo. Do you guys remember bamboo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask in the comment for Wacom bamboo.
I think that's the first thing I ever inked in was a bamboo tablet. From Gary, how do you balance style over substance in a storyboard? Is it entirely dependent on the direction of the show, or are artists given a little more leeway in what they do? That's definitely depends on the show.
I was actually, I'll hop in the chat here. I think
Yeah.
it really depends on the showrunner. Some shows are very, very, very rigid. You know, even like on model, like how on model they have to be, how strict you have to be to the story. And then some are like, you can draw them kind of however you want.
Do whatever you want, yeah.
Jokes can be absolutely bananas, like
as long as it's for kids, make whatever jokes you want, yeah.
Be kind of loosey-goosey. And that's like sort of a weird answer, but like it really does depend on the showrunner. Like some showrunners are like strict, like about what their vision is, and then others are like, ew, like, yeah, you can add a joke here about like a fart, like I don't mind.
Yeah, it's interesting because like in a way I do like some boundaries. Like I want my showrunner and director to be like, don't do shots like this. These are the kind of shots we like. Don't push it too far like this. Like, you know, because we kind of, when you can do anything, like the show's going to look all over the place. So you need some rules. But it's nice to have a bit of flexibility with that.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I think the structure, as long as the showrunner doesn't get like mad at you for not knowing the structure, right? Like,
yeah.
Show.
How rough is too rough for a board artist, and and how much time do you spend per board when storyboarding? A real quick answer for me: how rough is too rough? If you can't tell what character you're looking at, that's too rough.
That's a great.
Which I've had board panels come in where I can't tell what character it is, and I'm like, you guys need to revise this, please.
I once drew a really ugly board, and then later Nickelodeon like put it on their like screens everywhere for this thing, and then somebody commented on the Nickelodeon YouTube channel. They were like, "Is this how rough storyboards are allowed to be?"
Yeah, it was like a joke.
No. I was like, "Why did you do this? This is not supposed to be seen." How rough is too rough? Yeah, I mean, it depends on the showrunner. Also, like, I feel like the first panel in every scene should be really clean and like locked. And then sometimes they can be rough, like if you're just posing between.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, and like shows are different. Like the rotation I'm on now is 4 weeks total per board.
Is that for 11-minute?
For 11-minute. Amphibia was 5 weeks. So, you know, your first 2 weeks you spend roughing out the whole thing. And those roughs could be from 0 roughs, you know, so they could go from like basic stick figures with, you know, like, okay, this is Anne, you know, look at her hair. And then, you know, so just enough information to so that the directors and showrunners know what you're doing. And then 2 weeks after that, 2.5 weeks after that is like all cleanup and like revisions and stuff.
And then how about a 22-minute?
I don't know, I never worked on a 22.
Oh, okay.
I've done a few. I've done 6 weeks for 22.
Oh my god.
Like 2-week check-ins. Yeah. I mean, I've done a few where it's like you're just like the whole time you're like sprinting. Yeah, because it's like tight, clean too. Yeah, I mean, it just like depends too, because some shows, by the way, like I've worked on 3D shows where we never had to take it to clean because 3D you don't have to worry about how clean it is. But if you're taking it, for example, to a 3D show versus a 2D show. A 2D show, they would eventually need to clean up those poses and then put them into animation. So it's more important that your boards are clean so that they can like actually draw over those poses. But for a 3D show, it doesn't really matter because they're just going to be taking the models and like moving them around.
So that was like kind of a huge adjustment for me, going from a 3D show back to a 2D show, because I wasn't used to like cleaning up my boards. So I'd gotten like a little bit lazy with like board cleanup. Yeah, so like I think that's like also a difference, like how rough is too rough. Like for 3D, you can be like, it's a stick figure. He's in this shot. Like, that's it.
Good.
Deal with it.
Next question.
What are your top tips for creating a good character design?
Oh my God, that's so subjective.
Yeah.
Cute and funny. No.
Natural appeal. Make them appealing. Yeah, it's very subjective.
Yeah, because like the stuff that I might love, you might look at it and be like, disgusting. This is a bad character design, and I'll be.
I mean, there's some shows that purposely want to look ugly.
Yeah.
I won't name those shows, but.
Like appealing, you know, it's like a character that, if you want to do a character design for TV specifically, like knowing what your limitations are. If you're just designing a character just for fun, just for nothing, like, yeah, put like a million buckles and details on it. But I guess like, you know, having a character that you want to learn more about, that tells a story.
Hey, for both of you, what are some of your favorite character designers?
Cheyenne Curtis.
No, come on, she's lying.
No, Cheyenne is pretty great.
Thank you. That's really nice. I don't know. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking about this the other day, about how when I started in animation and like when I was in Sheridan, I was like, oh, like I love like Disney stuff and like this is what I love, and like I bought these like, you know, Pixar art of books, and now I'm like so not into that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm into like really like indie, weird proportion, crazy, like really loose, rough drawings. And I think like as artists, like we're always just kind of changing what like we're inspired by and love.
Yeah.
And sometimes it never changes, and that's cool too. But yeah, like stuff now, I really love just like really like loose, kind of crazy, not like, I love energy. Like I want to look at drawing and laugh and see energy. I can't really, I'm not good with names, so I can't name anybody off the top of my head.
Japanese art right now.
I find different things appeal to me as every couple of years, like, you know, grow and change.
Yeah.
There's so many questions. I lost my place. Sorry.
Okay, I'm not gonna be able to answer them all. Sorry, everybody.
We'll do speed round.
Designs. Yeah. So we have a half hour.
We're in the
I think we're gonna do a speed. Yeah. Okay. Let's do a double speed round. From Hannah, if you do fashion costuming designs for characters, fashion/costuming designs, can that be included in a character design portfolio? Or is that more considered prop design?
Character design, yeah. When I was on Star, I had to draw like tons of little dresses, and it was like super fun.
Yeah, I think costumes are part of character design.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to put in your portfolio.
Cool. From Allison, is there a lot of teamwork between the writers and the character designer? Between the writers and the character designers, or do the character designers just do the designs on their own and communicate with the director only?
Not often on most shows. I think only a few times have I known the character designers to do designs before.
Mm-hmm.
That's only if you have like a great schedule that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes like when I was doing character design, like I would talk to the writers and be like, hey, like did you envision something specific for this like giant monster?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just to get in their heads to know a little more information. But you're reporting to your art director and showrunner. Yeah. You're not really reporting to like the storyboard side. If you do get like a board panel that you have to do a special pose over, you know, you can talk to the board artist about it, but it's usually like pretty separate.
Mm-hmm. From Abigail, I've been seeing a lot of boards that are almost animatics circling around. How important is editing for the job? / a portfolio?
Oh, that's such a controversial topic.
Boo. I'll
That's the
I've definitely seen.
That's my answer.
I've seen boards that are almost animated. Yeah.
I don't think it really matters for me, but I don't really like action stuff, so that's not really my wheelhouse, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like some shows really want you to pose out a lot of stuff. Some shows are like, stop animating your boards, because when we send that to overseas, there's like a million poses, and like they usually work pose to pose and animate between that, so it kind of messes up the animation side of it. It really depends on the show you're on. I don't think as board artists we should be animating our boards. I think that's like 2 jobs in one, and it puts so much pressure on us to learn how to be like animators, and we're not, we're doing like the strongest pose that we need to, but like people who do these like, like settles and this and that, like it makes the board look super amazing, and I wish we had the time to do that, but we don't. But if you have the time to do it, and I know some amazing board artists who do that, and that's good for their boards, but
I think some board artists can't help it. Like, I'm setting something in the chat right now. This is, Benjamin Arcand, or this is pretty much an animated Squidward scene, but like that he just prefers to get really into it.
I think for some jokes it's worth it. Like if it really sells the joke, and do it. But I do think, and I think for action, like if you're really into action, I know that on the action side of things, like sword fighting shows or just action shows, you know what I'm talking about, fighting, you're going to need more of that. But I agree with Cheyenne. Like I think that it isn't necessary for comedy. I don't think it's necessary for a lot of things. And I think that if you do it poorly, I don't think it's gonna work in your favor. I think if you're adding poses for the sake of adding poses, it's not gonna look good. I think if you're adding poses to sell a joke, or if you're adding poses to sell an action, it will look cool and it will work well.
I agree. Off-topic question, from Allison. How is the showrunner's job different from the director's job? What do they do differently, or do they work together on mostly the same tasks?
Showrunner is big boss.
Yeah. Showrunner is like, this is their baby, their characters for the most part. The directors
manage the storyboard artist.
Yeah. The directors kind of manage the crew, just make sure everyone's turning in on time, deadlines are met.
Showrunners kind of touch everything, like writing, design.
Yeah.
Pieces.
The showrunner's kind of you go like give it to them when everything's done for their approval.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers. From Sydney, for storyboarding, what kind of story shows off your skills the most?
Depends
what kind
what
of
skills are.
Depends what kind of story you want to tell.
Yeah.
But really, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't do action. I hate action. I hate it.
I'm tired of it.
I can't do it. I don't like it. So I tend to go more towards like comedy and cartoony. So that's what that's like my strengths are. Yeah.
From Alexander, how long should it take? Interesting. Okay, we kind of answered this, but how long should it take to draw a panel? It depends, really.
A single panel?
A single panel, or how much?
1,000 years.
Yeah.
It depends. Like for rough, you could just do like a super quick gesture, and then for cleanup, like it shouldn't, like for TV boarding, your panel shouldn't take super long time for each panel.
Yeah, you're doing anywhere from like 300 to 800 panels in a storyboard, to 1,000 sometimes.
Yeah.
A thick board.
Yeah, so you don't want to take too long on each panel.
This is a nice comment from Veronica. Cheyenne, the designs on Star were amazing. I made a ton of cosplays from the show because your designs were so good.
Yay! I know I've seen so many people cosplay in like the outfits that I designed, and I like cry.
From Kiana, what exactly? I'm a little lost. What exactly does a character designer do?
Oh, character designer. So several things, they rotate the characters. They sometimes will have to come up with brand new characters that, will be handed to the board artists. They do, like costumes. They do mouth charts. So, like all the smile mouths, like open, close, all the sad mouths. They do expression sheets. They, do like monster design, all of that. And they do special poses. So when there's like a board panel that's like crazy, maybe like someone's face is half melting off, that's like a special pose. So that will go to the character designer and we'll kind of draw over the board and put it on model and decide, like what we're going to keep, what we're not going to keep from the board. And if a character gets like wet or burnt, we do that, like if Star got like her hair caught on fire and it was all burnt, like I would design that.
That's special pose or design, yeah. From KC, do storyboard artists need to do any kind of research when boarding a scene? Example, a time period scene, needing period correct assets. Is that a responsibility for the board artist to find?
Yeah.
I find that usually, especially at the beginning of a show too, there's a lot of like layout and research of like how the scene is set up, especially because the particular project I'm on now, I'm on the finale of the end of a show. So I have to know what the layout of the house that I'm in looks like, even though, because it's already been designed. So like, what are the objects that are in the house? Where are they placed? What are the characters that are there? What do they look like? Where are they in the house? Where can I place the camera? So those are kind of like basic things. As far as like research into like eras, it's more often like, so I recently worked on like one of the new Adventure Time specials, and like it's kind of more like, well, what fits into this world and what can and can't I use in this world? And I think that like sometimes is designed and sometimes isn't. So like often if you're on a show that's been around for a while, they'll have a library of stuff you can draw from. And you won't have seen any of it because you just got on the show like 2 days ago. And so you have to go hunting inside this like library of files. Or you have to just make up a bunch of stuff and kind of get approval from your director. Like, can I use this? Can I use that? The thing about all the research that you're doing is often you have a director and a showrunner where you can be like, hey, is it okay if I do this? Is this what the kitchen looks like? Is this what the shack looks like? Is this what the X looks like? So I think that's like sort of the research that I've done. I've never had to do like library research though, except for pitches.
Yeah, I think like I literally had to look up every single time how to draw a bike. Like, like Google image research for like everything. Like, what's a drum set look like? What's a helmet look like? Like stuff that like you think you know what things look like, and then you try and draw them, and you don't know what they look like.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of Google image searching for characters wearing props and stuff. Have you both had to draw cars in boards?
It's the worst. I hate drawing cars. I just do like Google SketchUp and like trace it.
Oh, and helmets, because your character always has to wear a helmet.
And
no matter what they're driving, they have to wear a helmet. This next question we'll get into more in the episode in the stream in a few weeks about pitching, but have either of you ever pitched? They're asking, Sylvester asks, how can we any tips on pitching and how do you gain confidence to pitch to studios?
Me and Ashlyn both pitched a lot. Like I was pitching shows back before I was even in the industry, just because I was like, I want a show so bad.
Same here.
So I mean, the confidence to pitch shows, like that's like, we all struggle with insecurity and imposter syndrome, but like no one's going to be able to tell your story the way you do or your characters the way you do. Like everybody has interesting point of view. So even if you are like, okay, like who would ever want to see a pitch about two little cats. It's like, yeah, but it's your two little cats. Like, it's the way you're doing it in your story. So, you know, there's a lot of information online now of like how to make a pitch document, and like there is kind of like a little bit of structure to it. Like everyone's pitch is different, but it's you know, it has to have authenticity and a unique point of view, and like, you know, like why these characters, why this story, why now, what do you you know, and that's always hard, but always go for it. Always, everyone should be pitching things because more creators.
Yeah.
If you both want to join in for our pitching episode, you're totally welcome to. We'll be with Jorge Gutierrez in a few weeks. Like a month and a half, actually. End of September.
One other thing, a piece of advice I got while pitching is also that remember that a pitch is not just like a pitch and you're done. A pitch is like a relationship. It's an open door. Often the relationship that you build with a development exec is not just like, here's my one idea. You want to consider it something where like you can bring them multiple ideas. So, you know, just try to remember that it's not like you have one shot to like pitch this one thing. Both me and Cheyenne, I mean, how many ideas have we gone through before we sold our ideas? It's not just one idea. The whole thing with pitching and showrunning is like, it isn't one idea. It's often a dozen.
Yeah, come up with as many ideas as possible. Because also when you're pitching, once you're done with everything, I've had them say like, great, what else do you have? Do you have anything like, and so always have, even if it's not on a poster board or a pitch Bible or whatever, always have even more ideas in your head that you could just talk about at any time.
Because I guarantee you, I mean, I've had this happen so many times where you'll pitch something and they'll be like, we just bought a show about an eggplant. And you're like,
so no eggplants for 5 years.
I pitched Aldi and Scoops to Netflix and they're like, we love it. We just picked up a show, and it turned out to be Hilda. So we just picked up a show about like a 9-year-old girl who kind of befriends magical things, and anyway, that happened to me.
One allowed, only one girl.
Yeah, and then that made me want to say like, yeah, we're only allowed, you know, one show starring a 9-year-old girl.
Yep.
But we'll definitely get a lot more into pitching on our September 30th episode. From Christian, any personal tips for preventing hand/wrist injuries from drawing? I think it was either you or someone asked that same question last time. Avoiding a carpal tunnel or
Ooh, I'm not the right person to ask because I'm not good with that stuff. I'm just like drawing like this. Getting a chair.
Yeah, I think both of us just like, you have to find what your most comfortable way of working is and then like stick to it. So like I have what seems to be a very uncomfortable way of working, which is I sit on the couch and work curled up, but I don't have any wrist or arm pain.
It works for you.
I work
hand stretches. Like I think there's one that's like you do like that and stretch out your hand. And if you're like, when I'm drawing and I feel like a bit crampy or it feels like I take a bit of a break, that's always good to do.
Yeah.
Take your breaks.
Take your breaks.
This is interesting. I need to word it a little. From Carmen, when developing a character of your own, could you share how you determine how the character comes together? In other words, choosing a round face or a square face, is there a formula? Like, how do you personally design your characters?
Okay, I'll answer it in 2 parts. The first part is like, let's say like on Star, Darren would be like, hey, like we have this like goblin character, you know, like I don't really know what it looks like yet. Can you just have fun with it? So I would kind of design like, you know, 6 or 7 loose, you know, designs on a page of like all different like goblins, like, yeah, like, okay, we'll try it like when that's more scary, when that's more, you know, cute, different shaped heads and eyes, and then from there she would kind of like pick and choose which ones she was gravitating towards, like, oh, I love these eyes, but I love that nose, and we'd kind of together, you know, figure out like what this new character would be. I guess with personal work, it's, I don't know, it's weird. Like some days I'm just kind of like, I feel like drawing like super, super cartoony and whatever today, and I'll do that. And then, you know, in a few weeks I'll be like, oh, I really feel like drawing like really kind of anime-ish. So like I think character designers tend to do this a lot, where they'll kind of really like experiment and jump around just because it's like really exciting to do. So I don't feel like I have like a style. I know people are like, oh, it's your style, but I don't see it, I don't feel it. Maybe I do, I don't know. Just because I tend to, like, I want to, you know, experiment a lot, but I guess, yeah, it's just whatever feels the most like right and appealing to you in that moment.
Anything to add, Ashlyn?
Yeah, I think sometimes for me, like, I often design characters in like sets, if that makes sense. So like, because I'm designing characters for like a Bible, like a pitch Bible, it's really important to me how characters look together. So if I'm designing like a character and their friend, I'll often design them together. So like, you know, are they going to look contrasting? Like, is one character going to be taller or shorter? Like, if this character has a round head and is short, is this character going to have an oval head and is tall? So I think that like if you're working towards doing it together, like as part of a Bible, like I think it's really important to see how they look together.
Yeah.
And
that's a great point.
Yeah, and really like playing with them against each other right from the very beginning, so you're not designing them like in a bubble.
Cool. Also, Ashlyn, from Monica, did you storyboard for your children's books before putting them together?
Yeah, actually, I recently, for my last 2 or 3 projects, started doing my book dummies, which is what you would call a manuscript with the art. I'm not calling you all dummies, book dummy. I did my book dummies in Storyboard Pro because it's a great way to see your page turns, which is, you know, how each page turns into the other. Great way to do it. Set up your 32-page document, draw out your book in Storyboard Pro, export it as a PDF, and then open that PDF in Photoshop, and you can start drawing your roughs. It's a really, really great way, I think, to get a nice rough version of your book. If you have Storyboard Pro, and see how the book looks all together.
Cool.
Yeah.
I never even thought about like storyboarding a book before putting it together. We have 2 more questions, unless anyone wants to throw any in at the last couple minutes here. Any advice on time management and getting the amount of work done per day? How do you keep yourself productive?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I think just it could be really intimidating at first because you're like, oh my god, I have 13 pages to board, and I have this minute, like I have 4 weeks, I can't do this. You know, try to kind of, I like to kind of jump around a little bit. Like sometimes I'll leave the scenes that I feel like are really like complicated and difficult. I kind of leave those just for a bit later until I feel warmed up. So I'll tend to gravitate more towards like simpler scenes and maybe just like dialogue or stuff that I'm gravitating towards, and then kind of getting that stuff out of the way and saving the really hard stuff. Like some people don't do this. People are like, no, do the hard stuff first, and then, you know, it'll be a breeze. But, you know, as long as you're really hitting your deadlines, like some people work really well, you know, from like 3 to 6, and then, you know, like that's like their like main chunk time. Some people work really well in the morning. So I think just knowing, you know, when you work the best, and if you're going through like personal stuff, like just really communicating that with your directors and like your production, like your crew, just being like, hey, you know, like something crazy happened this week, this might be a little late, or can I have a bit extra time, or, you know, like don't just take everything on your shoulders and then not get things done and then just disappear. Like because everybody wants to help you. Everybody wants to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants you to be suffering. So, yeah, communicating.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm a big to-do list person and like planner person, especially like a paper planner. So I like to write out everything I'm going to do that day on a sheet of paper. And I also have like a weekly planner. You can get a bit like nutty with it. But I think it does help to like sort of like set yourself like what manageable goals, obviously, like of like what you're going to do each day. And I'm also like a really big fan of like doing a little bit of everything a day. Like you know, I'll do like my storyboarding work, but I'll also try to make sure that I'm doing some picture book stuff as well, because I think doing like 14 hours of storyboarding sounds the worst thing ever, but doing 6 hours of storyboarding and then 2 hours of picture books, and then an hour of Animal Crossing sounds like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you like really like try to figure out what your goals are and like what your long-term goals are, and like if you can break them up into like manageable steps for yourself, you know, how you can achieve that. Some people do work better if they like do everything in one go. Like if you are somebody that like once you're going, it's easier for you to do like a 14-hour workday. I'm just using that as an example. You probably shouldn't work for 14 hours. But if you can work in 4-hour stints, maybe you do 4 hours of storyboarding and then 4 hours of this. It just depends on the person. Like I think unfortunately it takes a while to like learn what kind of worker you are, like what kind of artist you are. Yeah.
Cool. And this is the last question I've been sent. What's do you have a favorite book on storyboarding or script writing or cinematography?
Ooh.
Or maybe a favorite
I've been reading like
or a board artist that inspires you, maybe?
Yeah, I've been reading let's see, Save the Cat, like those classics, a lot of like screenwriting books I've been flipping through. There's that book, Dreams, oh my God, what is it? So bad titles, like Dreamscapes or something. It's like the one, the art directing book, Dream Worlds, is a really, I think it's called Dream Worlds. It's really awesome book. I love books that kind of talk about like art in like all of art in general. Like I've just been reading Big Magic, and that's not really about anything specific like storyboarding or design, but just about art making in general, which has been really amazing. For storyboarding, I haven't, like, honestly, there's not like any really good TV storyboarding books that I've seen. Like, they're all like feature.
Yeah.
Like Nancy Beeman, and she has like a storyboarding book, which I don't know if that's still in print, but like that was what we learned from in school. But
yeah. You know, what's the creator of Rocko's Modern Life?
Oh, Joe Murray.
Joe Murray has like a really awesome book.
His book is awesome. Yeah.
Really good.
Shoot, what is it called? It's just just look up Joe Murray Rocko's Modern Life book.
Yeah.
It's like
no, it's not a Rocko's Modern Life book.
It's like
yeah.
Sorry, I meant just the creator of Rocko.
Yeah.
It's his book.
yeah.
There's a lot of great info in that one. Yeah, creating animated cartoons with character.
Yeah.
Before we go, first of all, thank you both so much for being a part of this. I can't wait to see you when the pandemic dies down. It's been just too long.
I want to meet those cats.
Yeah, I know. You got to come over and meet Ripley and Boogie Boy. Can we get any any plugs? Websites, anything where everyone can find you? Both
yeah, I think someone asked, like, does Cheyenne have a website? I don't have a website. I used to have a Tumblr and I kind of abandoned it, but I'm really active on Twitter and Instagram, and my handles are like at Cheyenne_Curtis.
Oh, and you can you type it in the chat? Sorry.
Well, I'll do that right now. So come find me. I like ask me questions, talk to me. I'm really good at talking to people. And,
yeah, I feel bad whenever we stop the show at 6 p.m. like everyone is totally welcome to, get a hold of us if you still have questions and stuff like that.
What about you, Ashlyn?
Here's Milo the cat making
Here
his
he
appearance.
is.
I'm at Ashlyn Anstee on all the socials media, and my website is ashlyna.com. Yeah, thanks for all your good questions. They were really
They're really made me
really smart.
It's really good.
Questions.
Thanks so much. And everybody, the next episode in 2 weeks will be with Eric Bauza talking about voice acting for animation. So that'll be a super fun one. Don't miss that one. Yeah, Cheyenne, Ashlyn, thank you so much. And thank everyone for watching too. Thank the audience in the chat.
Thank you.
Have a great day.